So, this big old bad daughter-in-law thought she was gonna walk into my house and threaten to take my son away from me. Well, little does she know, my son is a mama's boy, and he's not going anywhere.
I got married very early in life to a man by the name of Walter. He owned some barber shops which were doing well, and everything was great between us besides the fact that we had issues having kids. I'd suffered several miscarriages, and after several, I finally gave birth to our only child, Kevin. Right from his birth, my husband and I did our possible best just to ensure that our son understood the importance of value. My son Kevin picked up the message and held onto it very strongly while growing up. He was all about defending the family's honor. There were times when he picked up fights in high school with his seniors simply because they had made derogatory comments about his parents, and though we always reprimanded him for it, we were proud on the inside that he placed value on us. Kevin continued that way till he graduated from college. Walter and I were the proudest parents alive. We felt the saying that if you train up a child, he would not forsake the path you have charted for him, but the reverse was the case. After Kevin's college, he got a job in civil engineering firm as the structural engineer. We were all very happy, and he began his work at the firm, and the job was a platform for meeting different people. He threw a thank you party for his father and me after he got his first paycheck. Although his dad and I appreciated the gesture, we felt he should not have done that as he needed to save money to start up his life. We noticed the presence of a certain lady at the party which he hosted. She clung to him everywhere he went. My husband and I were not okay with her, but we just made our observations in silence. A week after my son had thrown this party, he approached my husband and me to inform us that he planned on moving out. He claimed that he was old enough to start his own life, and all those other things which kids say when they're about to make a huge mistake. My husband and I were surprised at his naiveness, though we didn't show it. We agreed with him that he was old enough indeed to live on his own, but we disagreed on the timing. I remember my husband telling him that because he was old enough to live on his own did not necessarily mean that he was ready. There were some financial plannings to be done. Kevin was stubborn on the matter, and I can say that it was the first time he would be arguing in the opinion of his dad and me. All of his life, he had always followed our suggestions without question, even when he was not comfortable with it. However, it was initially difficult getting him to push aside the desire to move out, as it was not a smart move. Were in it not for the fact that I tried emotionally guilt-tripping him into staying, but Kevin was ready to argue with us. He failed to see that we wanted the best for him. He did not have enough sense to see it was not wise of a decision to move out of his apartment, well, because he had gotten his first salary in life. Kevin dropped the idea, after my emotional blackmail seemed to have worked, but we noticed he was becoming distant. He no longer shared things with us, about his private life as he did. I was initially worried at first, till my husband said it was perfectly normal for children his age to start detaching from their parents. My husband claimed that it was a stage where children desired their families of theirs. This, according to him, was not bad, but it required preparation, and our son was in no way ready to live on his own. He had just gotten out of college a few months ago and needed our guidance to prepare him more for the independent life he was desiring. Things went on like that for a while till one weekend, when Walter and I received an unexpected and unwelcomed visitor. On this day, our son Kevin was out for a project, which his firm was handling, when this lady came a-knockin'. The moment I opened it, I could tell I had seen her face from somewhere. I didn't seem to think for long before I recognized her to be the very same lady we'd seen following Kevin around at the party he threw a few weeks back. This lady was ill-mannered and scantily clad. She didn't bother to greet me, she just asked for my son Kevin. Well, she had disrespected me by not saying hello, and I didn't want to return the favor by just not letting her in. Besides, I saw it as an avenue for my husband and me to speak with her and know who she is to our son. I led her into the house, and that's when she lazily greeted my husband, who was over there seated on the couch. She did so while her eyes were focused on her phone. Just like me, my husband immediately became disgusted. He did not immediately react, though. We went on to find out who she was and why she was looking for our son. She did not bother lying about the fact that she was not Kevin's colleague because, well, we wouldn't buy it. There's no way a colleague of his would be dressed the way she did. She truthfully said that she was his lover and had tried reaching his mobile line earlier, but it simply wasn't going through. The interest of my husband and I got heightened the moment she claimed to be our son's lover. We'd always wanted whomever our son would end up marrying to be one equally shared of the same values which we did as a family. We asked about her background, and this included her family and academic background. The response we got was the most shocking. She said she was not there for an interview, and so we had no right to be asking about her personal life. She claimed that she had only come around because my son Kevin was supposed to give her some money for her rent, which was already due. My husband Walter lost it at that point, and he walked her out of the house and threatened to arrest her if she ever came close to our house again. The lady just stood up, hissed, and left. How uncultured. You would think that someone interested in the guy would do all she could to please both his family members. Walter and I could not wait for our son to return. We wanted to find out if the lady was his girlfriend, and if she was, we were going to express our displeasure, as we had trained him better. All the same, we planned on making him permanently cut off the lady. Kevin came back, but that was when the drama began. He got mad before we could tell him what happened. He said we had disrespected his lover in his absence. It's clear to us that the lady was his lover, as she claimed, but we felt she had fed him lies about what had transpired between her and us. So, we tried explaining to him that she had been disrespectful to us, and that his father was right in sending her out of the house. But Kevin was too deep in his lover's grip to listen to our side of the story. He just stormed out of our presence and walked into his room. This was the first time Kevin would stand up to his father and me, and it was not like we have done anything wrong. I tried talking to my son, but he snubbed me that night. He left for work the next morning without even saying a word to either his father or me. We both wondered how a woman could make our son throw the whole loyalty thing to the corner. Things only got worse when Kevin came back from the work that day. He came back earlier than usual, and he didn't say much to us. And we were surprised when we saw him attempting to walk out with his bags a few moments later. It was obvious he was moving out, but we still asked him anyways. He said it's dawned on him that his father and I were trying to hold him down, and he could only make progress when he finally moves out. Walter and I knew the whole thing was simply because we had shouted at his girlfriend the other day. I tried pacifying him by apologizing for whatever must have happened, but his mind was made up. We watched him walk out the door without looking back. The next few days, well, it got my blood pressure and that. My husband fired up. And this is because we spent the whole time trying to figure out where we had gone wrong. We tried reaching out to our son Kevin, but his line was unreachable. It was clear he was still angry and did not want anything to do with us. We could have paid him a visit to where he lived if only we knew the address. After thinking hard about the next move to make, we decided to visit him at his workplace. We got to his place of work and he treated us with disdain. Seriously, it was bad. It took a while and lots of pleading from his colleagues before he finally came to see us. Kevin did not give his father and me the opportunity to straighten things out between us. Nothing. He was rather dismissive all through it, and it was clear he didn't want to see us for a second. At some point, he rightfully asked us to leave and never come looking for him again. I asked my son what had come over him, and he just shouted at us in front of his colleagues. The colleagues who he had invited to the, quote, thank you party he organized for us. My husband and I had no other option than to leave our son's office in shame. I was crying all the way home while my husband just kept mute. His silence was not an indication of the fact that he wasn't hurt. Au the contraire, he felt it more. He called out the name of our son the moment we got to the house and collapsed. I was jolted out of my tears. I could not carry him on my own, and so I quickly called the ambulance, which thankfully arrived at our house just a few minutes later. My husband was taken to the hospital where, well, he went into a coma. I could not tell my son what happened to his father, as he had warned me to completely stay out of his life for good. Watching my husband fight for his life took away my focus from the fact that our son had broken off from us. My husband, Walter, never came out of the coma, and I was there when he passed. It'd be hard to describe the kind of pain which I felt that day. Beside the pain of loss, the reality that I was alone, it hit me pretty bad. If my son were around, it would have made my husband's passing less painful, as I would have had somebody to share the burden with. Friends and well-wishers, they began coming around for condolence visits, but my son was never to be seen. I could not tell if he had gotten the news of his father's passing. It's 2 weeks before the burial of his father that he arrived at the house. I could feel the anger rising within me the very moment that I laid my eyes on him. I did not mind the fact that some sympathizers were around. I just immediately accused him of killing his father and asked him to leave my house. Kevin fell to his knees and began asking for forgiveness. He was in tears. He claimed that he had been manipulated by his lover into acting the way that he did. Kevin went on to explain that his lover made it look like his father, and I were still viewing him like a child and wanted to control his life forever. She convinced him into moving out of the home and renting an apartment where they both stayed. Well, she was a high school dropout and she did nothing for a living. She just lived off his earnings as a civil engineer. He was deceived into thinking that she loved him while he just went to work, but she was spending his cold hard money on the men she slept with. It was when he found out and decided to chase her out of his house that she made jest of him by calling him a fool. Who could abandon his parents for a woman? I was angry at Kevin, but hey, he was my son. I still loved him, and the sympathizers in the house that day pleaded on his behalf. I just had to forgive him. The problem was not really in me for forgiving Kevin. The problem was in him forgiving himself. After learning the heart attack which his father died and went into the coma at first, and, well, came from his ill treatment towards us at the office that day, he blamed himself for the passing of his father. It simply did not matter if I told him that I had forgiven him. My husband was cremated and his remains were kept in the lake house. Kevin, on the other hand, is still dealing with the loss and guilt. During his late father's funeral service, he made a very emotional speech about never turning one's back on family no matter what. He publicly asked me for my forgiveness right there in the presence of everybody, and pledged to be committed to me for the rest of his days. Well, I'm currently living with my son in a different part of the city. He had insisted that we relocate so he and I could both heal from the wound of his father's passing. Thank you guys for listening. What is up, everybody? Mr. Redito here. So today's story is a little bit different than what we're used to. The reason I say that is not the drama from the story because, well, the passing of the father was definitely sad and distressing. However, the reason this story is so different. Update number 1, it was 5 years later. I'm talking 5 years since Kevin's dad passed, and it looks like a lot's gone down. Guys, I have every single update right here for you. If you're not subscribed to the channel, it only takes a second, and only 4% of viewers are subscribed. Go ahead and smash that button if you want to support me, and let's jump into update number 1. Hey guys, so, it's been 5 years since Kevin's dad passed, and I've been encouraging him to get married. He recently informed me that he had found a lady called Lily. Well, and I had him invite her to the house. I spoke with her, and she did not seem like somebody who had a bad character at all. She was someone who was good at management, and it was a plus for me, because I've been the one trying to keep what's left of my late husband's barbershop business afloat. Well, Kevin is still practicing civil engineer, and so he had no time to be going around the shops to make sure that things were in order. I had to take on the whole management thing. But I saw Lily as someone who I could hand over to. Everything was okay with Lily except for one pretty giant thing. Lily tried evading discussions about her background. I mean, I'm not a child, and so I suspected it's because possibly she and her family simply don't see eye to eye. I took it upon myself to try to get her to open up, as I simply could not advise her directly unless she told me what was wrong and what's going on with her background. So, I spoke with her about the need to place importance of family relationships. My aim was doing so just to make sure my son ends up with someone who shared the same ideology as him. I know how possible it was to carry over the wrong attitude from your family into a marriage, and I just don't want my son distancing himself from me again because of a woman. So, I encouraged Kevin to make a threat about quitting their marriage if Lily could not introduce him to her family. Kevin agreed with me. He had grown to fully value my opinion since his father passed, and Lily became fearful the moment Kevin insisted he was going to call the wedding off if he did not get to know her better by meeting with her family. The shame of having her wedding day called off made Lily comply with Kevin's demands. Lily claimed that most of her siblings were living outside the country except for one of her sisters. She brought her sister to us, and the moment I set my eyes on her sister, I could tell she was either hooked on drugs or had to be in rehab way more than once. Lily's sister could barely hold a conversation for long. It was as though her brain had been fried. This was just no resemblance in any way between her and Lily. Lily was somewhat polished, while her sister looked like someone who lived a careless lifestyle. I think Lily must have been embarrassed to introduce her sister to us. The marriage preparation between Kevin and his fiancée Lily is ongoing, and as a mother, I still check Lily's attitude towards my son Kevin and I. I mean, I don't mind a last-minute cancellation if it would save the relationship between me and Kev. Though my son is rich and has more money than I and his father ever did while preparing for a marriage. This is beside the barber shop which his father left behind. I insisted that his fiancée Lily covered part of the wedding cost. I equally advised him to agree with her on what percentage of her income she would be bringing to the table after marriage. This would build the sense of responsibility which his woman already possessed. Update number 2. Hey guys, the marriage has taken place and Lily is now officially my daughter-in-law. At first, Lily was a very good companion. I was no longer lonely each time my son Kevin went away for days to handle a project. I finally had somebody to talk to. It's rare to find that kind of bond which Lily and I shared between daughter-in-laws and mother-in-laws. Besides the fact that Lily was a good companion, she was equally helpful in the business aspect of things. I went with her to visit the various barbershops which we owned, and she offered insights as to how I could run things for better profit. I was pleased with her. A time came when I fell sick, and I could not handle the manager roles. I sent Lily in my stead, and she did a great job. I began nursing certain thoughts while I was yet to recover. I finally recovered, though not as strong as I used to be, and to reward Lily for keeping things under control while I was away, I left things under her care. It was not an official handover that made her the owner of the shops. It was just making sure the people who ran these shops saw her as my representation. Well, things did not go as I thought they would, to be honest. Fewer of the funds were beginning to go missing, without any trace as to where they went. The profit which came in every month began to dwindle, but the error could not be traceable to the staff. It was clear there was some form of foul play, and Lily was caught up in the midst of it. I didn't want to directly accuse her of diverting my funds, as such an accusation without concrete proof could ruin the relationship between Lily and me. This was my son's wife, and it would look awkward that I was calling the lady, who my son had a marriage with, a thief less than 6 months after the wedding. I tried turning a blind eye, but it was somewhat difficult, so I decided I would diplomatically push her aside when an opportunity presented itself. The opportunity I sought finally landed on my lap, when Lily announced to Kevin and me that she was 6 weeks pregnant. We were all happy for her. I was happy at the prospect of being a grandmother, but I used it as the opportunity to try to push Lily aside without making it look like I didn't trust her with money. Well, I suggested to Lily that it was best she stayed back and nurtured her pregnancy before reassuming the managerial duties, which she did. Lily refused. She insisted she was very well able to handle the running of the business. She claimed she could do so till her pregnancy was 8 months. There are women who work till the month of their pregnancy. This is no big deal for me. Besides, I don't want to sit around and do nothing simply because I'm pregnant. I'm not the first pregnant woman in history, you know. That's what she said to me. I knew she was right, but the more I let her control the business, the less profit I would see. Kevin pleaded with me to just let her continue with the management of the job, as she needed to move around as a form of exercise for her pregnancy. Lily is still overseeing the whole thing, as I don't have a concrete reason to push her aside. Update number 3. I almost missed the shot at being a grandmother. Thanks to Lily's stubbornness, she had been going out acting as though my eyes and ears in the business, while I spent most of my time regaining the strength that the illness caused. I was at the house one day when Kevin, who was out of town, called me to rush down to one of the barber shops and rush his wife to the hospital as she just collapsed. I wonder how he got in the news before me. I got there, but I was told that Lily had been taken to the hospital. I was told she'd stayed at the shop for barely 15 minutes when she just began screaming as blood flowed out of her. I got to the hospital and the situation was already stabilized. The doctors confirmed that it was a close call to losing the child, and that was a result of stress. So, I told the doctor about my daughter-in-law that I'd warned her to stay back and nurse her pregnancy, but she insisted she wanted to work and not feel lazy. The doctor reprimanded her to stay off the business till she gave birth. I don't want to look like a bad person, as I'm not happy Lily almost lost her pregnancy, but I was somewhat happy the whole thing happened to her, as it meant I could take over the business again. Well, Lily had no other option than to focus on taking care of her pregnancy. Even Kevin, who had supported her in helping me out in the management of the barbershop, sternly insisted she stayed back home till she gave birth. I resumed the roles of manager as Lily nursed her pregnancy. Now, to my amazement, the profits began to rise. It was clear that Lily was the reason why there was a steady decline in the finances. She was diverting the funds. I decided that I was not going to let her in on the management of the business, even after she gives birth. If she did not want to feel lazy, then she would have to get a job. I did not tell my son Kevin about my findings. I didn't want to create a problem in his marriage in my home. Besides, I would not want to put the life of my grandchild in jeopardy. Lily finally gave birth to a boy, who looked like his grandfather, my husband. I fell in love with my grandson the moment I laid eyes on him, and I noticed something. Each time I tried spending time with him or wanted to offer a bit of motherly advice on how Lily was supposed to care for him, she would always find a way to downplay what I said, like I was making no sense. I overlooked her, though, as I feel it comes with the package of being a mother for the first time. A year's passed since the birth of my grandchild, and Lily has been mounting pressure on me to, let her take over from where she left off. This is something I'm not willing to do, it's that simple. I simply told her that I never saw it as the right time to come back to managing the barbershop business. I don't want a situation whereby I would get in the problem with my son's wife because of money. Update number 4. Well. The devil has finally come out the shell. I've tried my best to avoid situation whereby I would not have to paint my son's wife as the devil. But it's gotten to that point, surely. Kevin, in his usual manner, had a project outside the city, and he's not been consistent at home. Lily came up to me one day and said her sister, the one who we knew among her siblings, was ill. Lily said she needed to travel away for some time to go look after her sister. I asked, what's the issue? But Lily said she did not know. She only said the case was serious. Well, I felt pity for Lily's sister. I gave Lily a bit of money and asked her to keep me updated about the whole thing, as I wanted to cover the cost of her sister's hospital stay. Lily traveled, but she never called to update me on the situation. I tried reaching out to her via phone lines, but it was not reachable. It was around that time of the year when I visit the lake house. So I get to the lake house and guess who's there? I bumped into my daughter-in-law Lily who, her sister who was sick, and a couple whom I've never seen before. The whole thing did not make sense. Lily was supposed to be taking care of her sister, but the lady whom I was seeing was not sick. Besides, what were they doing in my house? The two ladies were shocked when they saw me, and they tried changing the subject of discussion right away. But the couple gave me an understanding of what was going on, and they said that they loved the building and would be willing to take it for an affordable price. Well, I froze as I heard something I did not like. My daughter-in-law was trying to sell my home. Like a lion that's just been let out of a cage, I pounced on the couple who were wanting to buy my house, and they scurried off in fear. I then turned to my daughter-in-law and her sister, who were standing with their faces bowed to the ground. I lashed out at Lily for being two-faced, but rather than apologize, she began playing the victim. She claimed that if I had handed over the management of the barbershops to her, then she would not be so busy trying to sell the lake house to raise up some money. I could not get what Lily meant by trying to raise money. What did she need to raise money for? She's well taken care of. Her monthly allowance had never been delayed. I promised to deal with her when my son came back from his trip. I guess my threat got to her as she was silent for a bit. My grandchild suddenly woke up crying in his sleep. The whole argument had awoken him. Up till then, I did think about him. I was too angry to notice him soundly sleeping on the couch, and I made to pick him up, but Lily got to him before me. Lily was too proud to apologize. She went ahead to threaten me using my son and grandson. She claimed that the influence over my son would ensure I never set eyes on both of them. If I told Kevin what she had done, or was trying to do, as I watched her talk, I could see the cold-heartedness inside of her. What on earth could have given her the idea to use my grandson as means to shut me up? I kept quiet for the next few seconds before picking up my things and leaving the house. I'm at home right now, just contemplating what my reaction should be. Lily had just shown me her true colors, and if I did nothing about it, then my son would be living with someone he doesn't know. Guys, what would you do if you were me? Update number 5. This is the final post by OP. I decided against keeping quiet. I called my son to tell him what happened. I knew that if something was not done quickly, Lily could successfully sell the house on a second attempt. Kevin was too loyal to disbelieve me, and he was angry at the fact that Lily wanted to sell the house that remains of my late husband. He was not going to return home for another 4 days, so he asked that I remained patient till he got back. Well, I advised him to set certain plans in motion, as Lily could easily deny his claim. We both decided on what we would do. Lily came back home with my grandson, and I did not act in a way that could get her suspicion of the fact that Kevin was aware of what happened. So, Kevin came back a few days later, and he played along. He wanted to keep tabs on Lily, and so he treated her nice, as though they were on a honeymoon, just so that he could get access to her phone. Lily gets carried away at this point and fell for the trap. She got careless, and Kevin went to her phone for the very first time ever since they got married, and invaded her privacy. He'd always respected privacy. Kevin was stunned when he discovered a certain thing. You see, Lily's phone, it had text messages where threats were made on her life for undisclosed reasons. Kevin was able to get the contact of her, quote, sister, and he went behind her back to have her arrested for trying to sell off somebody else's property. It was all there in proof. She was grilled at the station, and she made a startling confession. She claimed she was not related to Lily at all. She told the cops that she and Lily were just friends who lived lives of debauchery, and Lily had asked her to act like a family member just to ensure Kevin did not call off the wedding. Another revelation that Lily's fake sister made was that Lily used to be married before, and she actually tried hiding it from me and Kevin. That's right. That was the main reason why she lied, and she was reluctant to introduce us to her family, as they would likely reveal most of these things about her. Kevin was broken by the revelation, but he decided to get back at Lily in a way she never expected. He called Lily from the police station and asked her to prepare as they would be going to dinner immediately after he got back. Well, Kevin drove down to meet Lily, all geared up and ready for the hot date. I was going to be left with the child, and while they went out on a date, Lily got into the car, and as they drove off, I ordered an Uber, and I trailed behind them. Kevin drove straight to the cops and where the police were on the ground to arrest Lily. At this point, yes, Lily was shocked. I walked into the whole drama while she was being handcuffed, and the moment she saw her friend or fake sister in cuffs, she knew it was game over. Lily confirmed all that her friend had said to be true. She even noted that she had gotten in debt from her previous lifestyle, and that's why she needed to sell the house. Kevin loved her. There's no doubt about that, but he was broken at the fact that she did not tell him about it. He sought my opinion on what to do, and I knew he would readily forgive her if I told her to, but I advised him to push on with the prosecution, divorce her, and continue life with, well, his son. This is just what he did. He divorced Lily and got custody of the child. Lily and her sister are both serving a jail time of 7 years combined. I'm glad that my son Kevin did not cut himself off from me for a second time because of a woman.
Well, this story started off really sad. When OP, well, she lost her husband, and her son was to blame for it ultimately, and that is a lot of stress that can go on one shoulder. The comment section, though, it was all over the place. Some people were on OP's side, some people were on the son side, some people were saying, hey, OP doesn't even have a right to be saying any of this because she's not the one living their life. Well, I just want to know, where do you guys fall in this? So, drop your comments down below and let me know. If you were in OP's position, and this was your son, and, well, you know what happened to your husband, how do you go about handling this? I would love to hear from you guys, so drop your comments down below. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, guys. It's like less than 5% of people that are subscribed to the channel who watch the videos. It really supports me to click that subscribe button, and I thank you for doing that. Guys, have a great day. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.